Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I hope I give you the shits.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss Dog Soldiers, which came out in 2002 from writer, director Neil Marshall, whose other work, which I also champion, includes The Descent and Doomsday, which a lot of people, a little bit iffy on it, but I saw it in the cinema and Neil Marshall movies, I set myself up to have a good time, and that's usually what I get. But this was his first directorial debut.
Yeah.
And, for American audiences, this went straight to the Sci-Fi Channel. And then you could pretty much consider this a straight-to-DVD film. However, in the UK, it did get a theatrical release, and we've been talking about Dog Soldiers ever since. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis for Dog Soldiers?
Well, the story follows a small group of soldiers who have been sent to Scotland on a training mission. They are tasked to take on a special forces unit, but come across the evidence that they're actually being used as bait by the special forces unit to capture some werewolves. The soldiers find themselves locked up in a farmhouse as the werewolves are outside trying to break in.
The film opens with pretty standard, cliched horror movie trope. Couple in the woods, camping, in a tent, getting down to some business, and then there's a weird sound as the zip is going up, as her zip is going down. And then something horrible reaches in and grabs her, although you don't see it, although the bloodshed soon gives it away, and we're set up for a horror movie, of course. Pretty standard. Gets the job done, though.
Yeah.
But then it cuts to Cooper, who's on a training exercise. And, he fights off some guards, and eventually he gets incapacitated, and they force him to shoot the dog as his final part of his training exercise. And he refuses. And then we cut to 4 weeks later, on the eve of an England v Germany football match. And we meet our cast of characters.
We've got Cooper, obviously, who we've already seen in the special unit training. We've also got Sarge, played by Sean Pertwee, who, after this, he'd have a lot of deaths in the future.
I think he's up there as, he's right up there next to Sean Bean as the, British actor who dies in everything.
You've got Liam Cunningham, who plays Ryan, but he's the head of the Special Forces unit, tasked to obviously use the army troops as bait for the werewolves.
I've just got to say this now, but, that actor, he's come a long way. I never really enjoy his performance in this film, but seeing him now in Game of Thrones, he's one of those characters that's managed to survive 7 seasons so far.
Yeah.
It's no mean feat.
You've got Darren Moffat playing Spoonie, who's the loudmouth, cocky soldier. Chris Robson playing Kirkley. Leslie Simpson playing Milburn. And Thomas Locklear playing Campbell. Now, the first thing you get when these guys all start jumping out of the helicopter is immediate flashback to Predator. Guys are jumping out into the forest. They're going on this little mission. And after the beginning, something is up. Something is watching them. And they are under the impression that all they've got to do is take on the Special Forces unit and take them out. So you've got the Sarge telling them straight, look, we may be firing blanks, but I want you to get stuck in. I want you to start kicking in some teeth if any of these guys catch up with us. And you start following them through the highlands of, we get told it's Scotland, but actually it was filmed in Luxembourg. But still, it just looks beautiful watching the soldiers, walking across the hills, whistling the little tune, having jokes among each other. We've got Joe, who's a big fan of England, and he is pissed that he's stuck out in the middle of fucking nowhere having to miss this vital football game. And I think he just calls everything bone.
Yeah, everything's bone.
Everything's bone. And I remember at the time that when the film came out, bone was the word that you used for a short while. Like, this is bone.
Oh, this shite is totally bone. The most important football match of my life is playing tonight, and I'm stuck up the backside of beyond without so much as a six-pack or a telly.
Well, that's the army for you.
Hey, it's England v Germany, man. Full-on footy war.
Yeah, well, it's nothing like this at all then, is it, Joe?
That's just an exercise. Hardly life or death.
It gets to the sequence. It's quite a dark moment where they're all kind of sat there at camp, and one of them asks, well, they're all discussing what gets under their skin, what really scares them.
Yes.
And I love the Sarge's backstory about a character who got a devil tattoo on his ass.
Yeah,
and
Eddie Oswald.
And then after he hit a landmine, the only thing that remained of him was the devil tattoo on his ass. And it was like, well, the devil really protected his skin. Yeah, it's just a dark moment that just sort of puts you, it uneases you, and it also helps build the camaraderie between the team.
The thing that really freaked us out that day was when Left-Hand Charlie found a bit of Eddie with a tattoo on. I mean, everything else was burnt to a crisp, covered in claret, all mushed up, pulped up. Not this bit. This bit was perfect. And there's old Nick chortling his fucking arsehole off at us.
I do like the way it has that jump scare.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And so one of them starts breaking into a joke and sort of lightens the mood. You see the Sarge, he's just sort of laughing like, you believe this guy follows up my story with a joke?
Yeah.
And then a fucking cow just lands in the middle of the camp spraying gore everywhere. And you're like, it's an unexpected jump scare. You know, where did that cow come from? Earthworm Jim somewhere? Launching cows?
Yeah. But we'd already just had a quick flash as well of Ryan following this unit, and you know, we as fans of the film, you know that the Special Forces unit are using the soldiers as bait. But then while he's watching the soldiers, you get the black and white POV shot from what we would later find out is the werewolf's vision, and they take Ryan out and pretty much wipe out his whole entire squad. So then you flick back to the soldiers and they start following the trail that the cow has left, leading them all the way back to the destroyed Special Forces unit, realizing that something is very, very wrong. So they drop all of their weapons that are firing blanks and take up live ammunition. They come across Ryan, who is heavily injured and screaming that there was only supposed to be one. There was only supposed to be one. And this is it. All of a sudden, the tension just starts building. The suspenses start, you know, your heartbeat's racing. And you don't get to see a lot of shots of the wolves, but those few shots you see are fucking wonderfully done.
They're just like silhouettes in the wood, and under the flashes of gunfire, it's really hard to see them. And of course, you can hear them howling. You can hear them also howling in pain when they do get shot, but you never actually see contact, and you never see them go down or get back up again. They just seem to keep coming.
Yeah.
And so the squad end up running, and they spot a car in the distance. They all manage to scramble inside of it, and the werewolves sort of hunker around the car for a little while.
Well, not all of them make it. Bruce gets chosen to stay back and keep a rearguard action, but for some reason his gun just isn't working. It either keeps jamming or it just won't fire. And I was sat there just like, you're a trained soldier. Shouldn't you have checked this weapon before you tried to use it? His death at the time, I think, was unpredictable. But now, you know, many films have used the same kind of shot of somebody running in the woods and then all of a sudden, bang.
They've impaled themselves on a tree. It's like, man, you know what? I had high hopes for that character. He was named Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
Of course, Neil Marshall stated that, you know, The Evil Dead was a massive influence on him writing this film, and so he wanted to name a character after The Evil Dead.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and then the werewolf sort of decapitates him or knocks him off.
Yeah, it swipes him off.
And then the Sarge finds what's left of Bruce before he's attacked as well, and he has his guts nigh on removed.
Great special effects. You know, you've got Sean Pertwee just lying there on the floor trying to scoop his guts back up.
It's Cooper who's trying to put his guts back in, and he's like, "It won't fit!
They won't fit!" And Cooper's just like, "Come on, stop being so fucking brave!" And that's when he picks him up, and they all just start running. And like Gary said, they come across this Land Rover, just happens to be driving down the road. And this, for me, the first time I saw it, this for me, with all my experience in horror movies, I started to get suspicious immediately, you know, because these guys are supposed to be out in the middle of nowhere on a training mission, and yet here's this car. And they come across Megan, who's driving it. It's the look she gives Ryan when they get into the car that gets my suspicions up. Like, she knows him. It's later revealed that she was assigned to Ryan's Special Forces unit as a zoo biologist about what they're hunting. But she actually has more of a connection to the wolves and what they're all about. So obviously she's the most knowledgeable. But you don't know that right at the start. You just see the look she gives to Ryan while all the soldiers are getting in. And like I said, my suspicions are like, I don't fully trust her. Yeah. I definitely don't trust Ryan, but I don't trust her.
Interestingly, in the original script and in the commentary, Neil Marshall explains that the two of them were never supposed to have any knowledge of each other.
Yeah.
And he didn't like the fact that they knew each other.
Yeah.
And it was at the behest of the producers that were like, no, let's have this backstory here and pad it out a little bit. It sort of works.
Yeah. But, you know, if you're an experienced horror movie watcher, you're just like, there's something going on there. Megan drives them to a nearby farmhouse. And like I said, my suspicions are already up at this point, and they found the only livable house in what could be thousands of fucking miles.
Well, I mean, come on, it's supposed to be Scotland. And she says that, you know, the nearest town is like, how many hours drive? And you're like, really?
Come on, dude. Farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. You've seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Well, yeah, but that was Texas. This is Scotland.
Don't fuck with the Scottish, mate. Don't.
Fuck with the Scottish werewolf.
Yeah.
Little pigs. We've come to nick your video.
They all start going inside the house, and it's like the fucking Mary Celeste. There's food warming on the cooker. The house looks lived in. And you just, once again, my suspicions are like, well, where's the family? You know?
Now, I kind of have a bit of a problem with the fact that if this family is the werewolf family, obviously they're not in the house, they've either all been eaten by the wolves, at this point, this is what you're thinking, or they are the werewolves.
Yeah.
And these killings, as we find out in the film, have been going on for quite a while, which is why the character of Megan is there, to sort of investigate in her own way.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a werewolf and you know that it's the full moon, you know you're going to turn to werewolf.
Yeah.
So why put dinner on?
Now that brings me to my point is they find the stew and Joe picks it up and they make it this big thing of whenever you find food, you should eat and keep your strength up. And they ask Joe, what is it? And he says, I think it's pork. I don't think it's pork. I generally believe that stew is made from human remains, human bits, and that the family were eating to get themselves ready and fueled up so that when they change into the wolves, they can go out on the hunt.
But Megan says that they're a nice family.
Bullshit! Bullshit! You know? Just like Cooper says later, that's a shame because we're going to have to fucking kill them all.
Oh, top grub, what is it?
Dunno, mate. Looks like pork.
Yeah, well, leave some for us, you greedy mongrels.
They go to get out into the car again to try and get their injured to the nearest population centre, as Cooper calls it. And the wolves, I kind of like this bit with the fact that they've only been in the house for a few moments and the wolves have literally come up stealthily and torn the car to pieces.
I like how they silently tore that car to pieces. No one inside heard it.
No. And you start to realise, okay, they're at the tree line. They're working as a pack. Most of the time, you can only really see 3, but there's supposed to be at least 4 or 5.
There are 5, and even the DVD cover has 5 wolves on the front. And if you look at the family picture, there are 5 members as well.
Yeah. And now it just starts into a siege, and I love the siege. It took me back to Assault on Precinct 13.
Oh, absolutely. I thought the exact same thing. I was like, this is a siege movie with werewolves, and you do not need millions and millions of dollars to do it, like Underworld 3, for instance. This works, because you only get to see glimpses of arms or shadows sort of breaching through the windows and doorways, and you spend most of the shots just looking at our characters just shooting into the darkness
Yeah.
and hearing the sounds of the wolves being hit or recoiling in pain before they attack again.
Yeah. And I feel generally bad for the soldiers because obviously as a werewolf law goes, silver will only damage them.
Well, I like the fact that they do not even believe that they're fighting werewolves. They're like, maybe it's lunatics that have escaped a mental asylum. Maybe they're just wearing fucking fancy dress outfits in order to scare the shit out of us.
Yeah. But they just keep firing, and you're thinking to yourself, you're not wasting your bullets, you're holding them back until morning. But whatever time they get to the farmhouse has to be 9, 10 o'clock. And they've still got at least another 7 or 8 hours to go until sunlight comes up and changes the family back. They take the Sarge up the stairs and they're trying to super glue his stomach.
I love the fact that Sean Pertwee actually got pissed drunk for the filming of this scene, because he sells being drunk very well otherwise.
Yes. Is it my birthday, Cooper? Is it my birthday?
I'm sure you should be chasing painkillers with whiskey.
No, he's on there.
Is it your birthday, Coop?
No, mate.
Is it my birthday? Hey!
No. You're going to thank us for this in the morning.
I'll tell you something, mate. I'm going to fucking thank you. Right now, I'm going to thank you because you saved my life. You got me out of there, mate.
I fucking love you. You're the best mate ever anyone could have.
I love the punch, though. Knock me out! So Cooper hits him. Hit me, you fighting! And Cooper hits him again. That completely puts him out.
He actually made contact on that second punch, square on Sean Pertwee's nose.
Oh.
But, it kind of that awkwardness after he knocks him out, and he's like, yeah, okay, we'll carry on. It's like, actually hit him. But Sean Pertwee said, I was pissed drunk, I didn't even feel it. I still played being knocked out.
After the wolves have attacked for the first time, you start to notice that some of the deaths are slightly predictable, especially when Terry has his own little one-liner about how they're pussies and not wolves, and then turns his back on a weakness in their defences.
Dogs. More like pussies.
And I like that little kind of homage to Aliens at that point where Cooper comes down and he's just like, then we go in after him and Ryan's just like, he's already dead. He's dead. There is no point. And I expected Ryan to be like, right now they're cocooning him just like the others. You can't help him. But you start to notice as well that Ryan is starting to look a little bit healthier than what he looked like a few hours before. And like I said, with werewolf legends, if you get scratched or bitten by a wolf, you will yourself become a werewolf. And so they look at his wounds and realize that he's healing pretty fast. Now, I know that they want to question him to find out what's going on. And I know that obviously in the context of the film, they've got to keep this guy going. But it's werewolves. And you should just cut Ryan's head off right fucking now. Just cut it off. Just make it fucking easy on yourself. But obviously then that brings up the moralistic view of, well, the Sarge has been injured too. And if you're going to do that to Ryan, then you might as well do that to the Sarge. Yada, yada, yada.
I love the sequence where one of the soldiers vomits on Ryan.
yeah, Terry again.
Terry.
Yeah. One of my favourite sequences is just when he says to them to start arming up because they realise that the bullets are not working and they're starting to lose a lot of ammo. And you have that shot of Spoonie who opens up the case and comes across what I'd like to think is the Highlander sword. And there's the way he stands there with Cooper and he's got a frying pan in one hand and the sword in the other. And he's just like, which one do you want? And you can tell that he kind of wants the sword. And Cooper's just like, I'll have the sword, Spoonie.
No, he actually takes the sword and puts it down. He's like, you'll take your eye out with that. You keep the frying pan. It's like, come on. There's also a really nice sequence where it sort of breaks the tension a little bit, or adds the atmosphere, where Megan sits at the piano and starts playing the piano.
Yeah.
And there's like a musical interlude. And I just thought it was a nod, perhaps, to American Werewolf in London, where the song that she's playing, I think, is translated to Moonbeam or
Right.
something like that. And of course, The Man Wolf in London, every song in that film has moon in the title.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was a nice little nod.
I kind of got the feeling as well. It was kind of like, you know how they say music soothes the savage beast? Because you can hear her playing and then you can hear the wolves outside kind of howling. I don't know if they're howling in appreciation to the music.
Or it's the memory that they have.
Yeah, or that's it. They're just like, we remember that, so we won't attack right now. But, see, I'd already been suspicious of Megan from the start. And the fact that she knows where the farmhouse is, she knows the family as well. There is that part where she cuts her hand on the glass. And I believe that's the part where she is infected with the wolfinism, I suppose. And so from that point, as soon as you see her with the cut hand, I'm just like, bitch, you're really gonna do something stupid in the future, aren't you?
Well,
yeah.
I was kind of under the impression that she was always part of the family. I think when she was out investigating, she came across the family, and maybe they actually turned her, not under duress, not after an attack, but I think they just made her part of the family.
Yeah, but
and they played a piece of music which was lifted from the Company of Wolves.
right.
And so it's kind of like that little musical piece there is just saying either, yeah, she's now just become infected with the werewolf, but I think she was already a wolf.
But then how did she control her so that she didn't change? I mean, I suppose, looking at it, the family could allow themselves to just change immediately, and some people are able to fight it off. But as we notice with Ryan later,
I think
he forces himself to kind of change. So,
yeah.
you know, she could have changed at any point.
I think she was starving it off because I believe she is now under house arrest with these wolves, so to speak. They won't let her leave in case they spread the werewolf curse or whether she gets away and tells everyone that there's a werewolf curse there and is proof of it. I think she really just wanted to get away and saw these mercenaries, the army, as an excuse to escape.
Yeah, I suppose, but it kind of that kind of also conflicts with the fact that, like we find out, she's working with Ryan, you know. So, like Ryan says at the beginning, there was only supposed to be one. If she was a werewolf and they had a hint that she was, they should have just fucking taken her. It would have been a lot easier. The soldiers are told by Megan, who I'm massively suspicious of anyway, that there is a old Land Rover in the barn, and so they send Joe to go off and get it. But he's actually happy to get it because he just wants to be as far away from Ryan as he can. He rides in, he runs into there, and it's a brilliant sequence because Spoonie, who's one of the best characters I think in any kind of horror movie, is used as the distraction for the wolves. So you get that awesome bit where he kind of jumps down, walks out into the woods, and then he does the football chant, and then pops the flare, and the wolves come at him, and he's just like, come on! And you're just like, fucking yeah! Run, Spoonie, run!
Come on, have a go if you think you're not enough!
And while he's running, Joe runs to the barn, jumps in the Land Rover, and starts to hotwire the car. And I thought it was really funny because I looked up the notes, and it turns out that the character who played Joe couldn't drive anyway. So he only told Neil Marshall that the day that they were filming this scene, and Neil Marshall just kind of made him work with it, just made him kind of go with it. And you see that bit where Terry is kind of still alive and being eaten by one of the wolves, and the wolf, in a really nasty shot, kind of just bites off his head and lobs the head onto the car. Joe reverses the car, and like I said, kind of predictable cliche death.
Where the fuck did that wolf come from?
Well, you saw the shot of it. He spotted the wolf trying to get into the back of the car in the barn, but then he got distracted by another one at the door.
Yeah.
So while he was dealing with that, the other one kind of stealthily moved in, just as stealthily as it took out the car at the fucking beginning.
Clever girl.
Yeah. But you have that... I do like that shot where he's sat in the car and you can see the breath coming to the back of his neck, and he says, like, "You're behind me, aren't you?" And you think, Joe, you could have jumped out of the car at that moment and just fucking ran. But he was pissed, and he was gonna fucking have some.
I'm gonna fucking have you!
Yeah, but then, you know, the blood splat hitting the side of the car. You're just like, oh, well, I guess that's over.
Yeah, that's it. So now we're only left with Cooper, Spoonie, Ryan, Sarge, and Megan. And you already know that the Sarge and Ryan are infected.
Well, because the Sarge is up and walking around now, and he looks a hell of a lot healthier than he did before. And he even shows his wound.
Yeah, but he's not happy about it. Because he knows what's going to happen to him, and he doesn't want to end up like everybody else. So they formulate this plan, given to them by Megan again, to drive the now damaged Land Rover into the barn and blow it up, because that is supposedly the lair of the werewolves. She's a bitch.
I love it when you see they get into the car, they set up the canister, send it in there. Sarge Molotovs the ground, and I'm like, I didn't see any wolves in that barn. It was pretty well lit.
Yeah.
Like, were they hiding in the rooftops? Like, why were they in there? How did she know they were in there? Why would they be in there when they've got this whole wood? So yeah, they blow it up, come back into the cabin, and they're like, ah. And that's when Megan goes, yeah, sorry about that, but
I let them in
while you were gone, I let them in. And I love that shot. It's a scary ass shot where you see her there transforming and all the wolves behind her.
Yeah.
But then they quickly shoot her in the face.
Yeah. Kill the fucking bitch.
Somebody has been misery.
Now, we never actually see her again. Now, I guess she werewolf totally transformed, because I don't imagine that headshot would have killed her.
No, I think that... See, the thing is, what I get from this film and from lore of werewolves is while they're in the werewolf form, they're pretty much immune to absolutely everything apart from Silver. But while you've got them either in their human form or mid-transformation like they have with Megan, you can kill them. A bullet to a human head is probably a little bit more easier to kill than a bullet to a werewolf's head. But before we get to the ending, I've got to bring up the wolves massively. I mean, that shot where they climb into the bedroom with the sergeant there, that's when you realise they're, 7 foot tall? Clad, these dancers. He didn't get stunt actors or horror actors. He got dancers who were able to move on these stilt-like apparatus, covered them in fur. You know, some of the heads move, but most of them are kind of kept out in a bit of a snarl look.
It's great animatronic work with bodysuits and, as you said, dancers on stilts just to give them that movement.
Yeah.
You know, some of the shots of the faces, they look just a little bit dumb, but at the same time, you know, the way that the grace of which that they move is just pretty terrifying. And it's... I put this up there as one of the best werewolves in film, right next to Meg Werewolf in London and Company of Wolves, actually.
Yeah, the long claws, the black of the skin, you know, and like you said, with that one shot with Megan or the shot with Joe in the Land Rover, when you just hear their breathing, you know, and they're thinking of how they're going to attack.
The only thing that this film cheapens out on is a full werewolf transformation from human to wolf.
Yeah.
We only see the contact lenses, the teeth and the claws. That's all we really get to see, and I would have really liked a full-blown werewolf transformation. It's the only thing this film doesn't have.
See, if I'd seen something like that, I would have been sat there like, why don't you just stab it now?
Yeah,
just fucking stab it now. And it's like the point where Ryan changes, you know, and they throw him over the table and they can see he's got the eyes, they see he's got the teeth, they see he's got the claws. And part of you's just like, guys, come on, you must realise now it's fucking werewolves. And they move slowly to the end of the table. And then he gets up and he's this giant fucking wolf. And I'm like, well, now you're fucked because you can't hurt him. They even stab him right through the chest with the sword. And that's it. He jumps out the window. And you're just like, you could have killed him when you had the fucking chance. So that's, like I said, that's when it brings back to Megan and they shoot her in the head. They realise their mistake with Ryan, so they take her out.
But now that the wolves are in, all fucking hell breaks loose.
Oh, God,
it's a mad scramble, as there's technically now only Cooper, Sarge and Spoon left.
Yeah.
Sarge and Cooper bolt upstairs. Spoonie tries but gets caught off. And ends up having a fight with a werewolf in the kitchen.
Brilliant
which
fight.
is probably the best fight sequence in the entire film because he halves at it with the frying pan. You know, he gets thrown around the kitchen.
Bit of a boxing match.
Match. He ducks a couple of swipes, gets a couple of jabs in, gets thrown around some more. Ends up grabbing a small knife. Knocks the werewolf over and shanks it several times. Blood splashing everywhere. You're like, fucking get in there, Spoonie!
Yeah, go!
Kill it! And then he's overpowered as a second wolf comes out of nowhere, picks him up, and you're just like, oh no. No, Spoon, get out of there! And he delivers perhaps the best line of the whole film.
Yeah.
I hope I give you the shits, you fucking wimp.
And again, you know, we don't get to see Spoonie die. It cuts to the dog just looking.
Yeah.
Now, in the original script, they had the two werewolves literally pull him in half. And gore would have sprayed everywhere, entrails, blood, guts.
Yeah.
But they were like, but we really like the character of Spoonie, so we're not going to show him dying in the most graphic and brutal way possible. Kind of like Hudson from Aliens, you know, where he's a likeable character. We'll just drag him off. You don't see him die.
Yeah. I mean, we do see the wolves kind of snapping at the blood and guts on the floor.
The remains.
Yeah, you know, and then you kind of get that close-up shot of the wolf coming down to the dog. But I read in the notes that Neil Marshall liked the dog that they had in the film, but he wasn't a movie dog. So there's that quick edit where the head starts to come down and the dog barks. You know, this like, cut away, because, you know, it's going to fucking rip the mask off. And we follow Cooper and Sarge up the stairs, and the comedy in this film is been top notch all the way through. And you've got that brilliant bit of the Sarge in the toilet, you know, feet up, keeping the door closed. And Cooper's like, Sarge, where are you? And he's like, I'm in the car, Z! I'm in the car. And it's just like, you're shouting, they're going to know where you are. Well, they already know where you are, so it fucking really doesn't matter. And Cooper breaks through the wall into the toilet. Then they break through another wall into another bedroom. They climb inside the wardrobe. And if by this point you haven't realised the werewolves live here, then the body parts at the bottom of the cupboard is a big inclination. But I'm like, why would you store dead bodies in there unless like you really like eating human flesh, even in human form? And these are like your late night snacks. It doesn't make any sense, because after this they break into the kitchen and there's that whole, you know, brotherly love moment between the Sarge and Cooper, where the Sarge knows he can't go on anymore.
He's boned.
He's boned, and so he sends Cooper into the basement and breaks the gas line on the cooker, and he blows up the house while Cooper's in the basement. Now, the fucking explosion. It's like, I understand that obviously earlier on we'd already seen like 5 or 6 of those gas canisters, but fuck me.
That was one hell of a blast.
That's it.
I was even thinking like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that would probably kill a werewolf. I'm going to guess silver in the debris flying around everywhere maybe took him out.
Well, no self-respected werewolf would keep silver in his own house. But I'm pretty sure an explosion like that would fucking kill anything.
Incinerate them.
Yeah, incinerate them. And you think that's it. Because you're like, well, Cooper can now come out of the basement and he'll be safe. But he meets Ryan in the basement. And they have their short little fight sequence. Ryan grabs Cooper's head and starts to move it towards the sword in his head. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Out of all the blood and guts and gore in this movie, the sword on the teeth is the one sequence I could never really enjoy. And he manages to find the silver knife that we'd noticed at the beginning. You know, stabs Ryan with it. You notice a bit of colorization change in the werewolf's form.
That was cool.
And then when he lunges at Cooper delivers that dumbass football line, but shoots him in the face, and that's it.
You think it's all over? It is now.
And so, yeah, it's a great ending to a film. Fiery explosion, one last encounter with the wolf, and looking out into the sunrise. Everything's done. And so there was a sequel planned, but never came to fruition. Back in 2008, Dog Soldiers 2, Fresh Meat, was there was posters going up everywhere. Everyone was sort of talking about what they would do with Dog Soldiers 2, and that never materialized. 2011, a trailer arrived for Dog Soldiers Red, or Dog Soldiers Legacy, which was a planned TV series, and nothing ever materialized out of that as well. So it looks like we're never actually going to get a follow-up or a sequel or another film set in the Dog Soldiers universe.
I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I like werewolf films, and it's my favourite Universal monster.
Yeah.
The Dog Soldiers universe is kind of, it rides the lightning of horror and comedy quite well.
Yeah.
And I think that there is room for another Dog Soldiers movie if it's done right.
Yeah, see, no, because they won't do it right. They'll mess it up. You know, you have your Dog Soldiers and you have your American Werewolf in London. After American Werewolf in London, you get American Werewolf in Paris.
Yeah.
So
Howling 2?
Yeah. You know, if they were going to do it, do it in the same kind of rendition as Dead Snow 2. Make the comedy and the gore like, the over-the-top focal point. Because, like I'm thinking right now, we've got the camaraderie and the brotherly love and the soldiers in this first one. So anything that happens in the sequel, we're immediately just going to think back to that.
Yeah.
And and it's not a bad thing, but it will tarnish the sequel. It depending on how they give it to you. But sometimes they do just fuck it up.
I got so many memorable and favourite moments from Dog Soldiers. Although, interestingly, all these years later, sitting down to watch the film, I was a little bit put off, and I was questioning myself whether this film was as good as I remember it. Because I know some people complained, it's too dark, you don't really get to see the werewolves.
Yeah.
But the atmosphere that the film creates, I like. I love the camaraderie between all of the characters, their banter back and forth. The dialogue feels quite authentic, and it brings you into this world, so that when they start getting picked off one by one and fighting the werewolves in this last stand, which, the characters even say it's just like Zulu with British soldiers fighting off overwhelming odds.
Yeah.
And there's even the sequence when they move from the bedroom into the bathroom is a sequence just like Zulu when they're surrounded and they have to get into another room. I love the sequence where with the Sarge is on the bed getting pissed drunk and they're trying to super glue his wounds back together. That's great. So when they find Spoon, or the remains of Spoon, and he turns to him and says there is no spoon. It's like, yeah, it's a great Matrix reference. It really works. And I love the final action sequences where the wolves are in the house and tearing everything up and smashing through the walls. Just love it. The action sequences are really well done.
I've got a lot of favourite scenes. I love Sean Pertwee at the beginning. Just kind of his story about Eddie Oswald. And I also like when they come across the Special Forces camp and he says, if Little Red Riding Hood comes around the corner carrying a bazooka and a bad attitude, chin the bitch. I'm just like, fucking yeah, Sean, you're the Sarge.
We are now up against live hostile targets. So, if Little Red Riding Hood should show up with a bazooka and a bad attitude, I expect you to chin the bitch.
I love the sequences where they're in the farmhouse, and they're arming up, and you kind of know that most of what they're doing isn't really going to hold them off, but it's good just to see that action of people actually doing stuff. None of them, Terry might be the weakest character because he's always nervous, but he doesn't chicken out. He's still there firing his gun and trying to kick some ass. Spoonie. Most of my favourite sequences now just involve Spoonie. I love the little I love that camera shot where he's watching the two doors and he's looking back and forth and the handle starts going. And it kind of reminds me back to Hudson, like in Aliens, looking at the motion tracker. And he's like, they're all around us, man. They're all around us. Spoonie going outside as the distraction. You know, he's loud, he's fast, and he does not give a fucking shit. And then my final favourite scene is him in the kitchen giving it his all to fight off this werewolf and then delivering that final line. It's just epic.
Yeah, it really is. I have to recommend Dog Soldiers. As we've said, it is one of the best werewolf movies ever made. It really works as a horror movie, as a comedy, with the action set pieces. I recommend this for horror fans. I recommend this for people that maybe don't watch that many horror movies, but you're going to get a good time watching this film. The hour and 40 minutes that it runs at breakneck pace. You know, there's the action scenes are broken up with some comedy one-liners, and then the next set piece is already in motion. You know, the practical effects of the werewolves are very good, and they decided to use very little to no CGI at all. And I think the only CGI shot you can tell is when he gets stabbed with a silver and the colorization changes. But keeping all the effects practical just really grounds it into a reality that's believable, especially in horror movies with werewolves. But yeah, definitely check out Dog Soldiers if you've never seen it.
I definitely recommend Dog Soldiers. It's a fun, gory action horror movie with nods to other movies that you notice, but they do it well in their own little independent way, and you sit there going, I like that. The characters, some of them are forgettable, but as the film goes on, you kind of miss them. You kind of think, oh, what? Where's Bruce? Where's Terry? Where's Joe?
Where's Spoon?
There is no spoon.
On top of that, Sean Pertwee and Cooper working together, brilliant brotherly love right there, just to keep the Sarge and Cooper as the main two focal characters. And then you've got Spoonie, and if there's one reason to watch it, it's him.
Well, come on, you beauty!
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
I mean, think about it. We bust into their house, we eat all their porridge, we sleep in their fucking beds. No wonder they're pissed off.
But they're good people. They're kind people.
What was the pity?
Why?
So we're gonna have to kill them all.
Too right, mate.